All right, guys, it's true crime time again. We hope you've all had a great week so far, and if not, we hope that this brings you a little dark joy. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Taylor. And this is
Pure Malice. If you're listening on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe for us. It's one of the easiest ways to support the show and make sure you don't miss what's coming next. And with that, let's get into today's case.
This week, we are covering the clown. I skipped a whole ass word. It's really early today.
It is a very early morning, so hang in there.
The killer clown murder, aka the murder of Marlene Warren, which is actually our first case to cover with a female killer.
It is, and I'm kind of surprised at this. All right, so originally we were planning to save this case for Halloween just because clowns are kind of creepy and it reminded me of Halloween.
Or my birthday.
What?
Or my birthday.
Why?
Because it happened on my birthday, like 2 years before my birthday.
Oh, well, it did. Sorry. I thought you were saying that clowns reminded you of your birthday because I just said clowns remind you of Halloween. I'm like, what? Why?
I'm actually not a real big fan of clowns.
Yeah. I mean, I totally understand it, but yeah, you confused me.
Also, my son is on this kick for clown balloons.
He is.
But just know, I had no idea what he was talking about when he was saying clown balloons.
Oh.
I was like, what is a clown balloon? Yeah, clown balloons. It's not always what you perceive, you guys. But in this case, it might be.
Yeah, might be. We'll see. All right. So on the morning of May 26th, 1990, 2 years before her birthday, there was a knock on the front door of Marlene Warren's home in Florida. When she opened it, someone was standing there dressed as a clown, holding flowers and balloons. And I'm sure that there are some of you out there who just heard that and thought, like, no, like, I'm done already. Like, there's a clown at my door. Brittany and you particularly come to mind. Taylor's like over here. Me too, me too.
You know, I'd be screening my doorbell like, oh, nope, I'm good. I'm not answering. Hey, that is the beauty of Ring.
It is, and that's exactly right. You have to keep in mind, she didn't have that back then. She just has this little peephole. So just imagine, looking through a peephole or nowadays checking your Ring doorbell and seeing this clown standing at your door for no apparent reason. Like, it's a little creepy, right?
It's weird.
Mm-hmm. So before Marlene could even process what else this clown might be holding, she was...
So loud.
I know, and I feel like it's just radiating through the mic. She wants in. So before Marlene could even process what else the clown might be holding, she was handed the flowers and balloons. And Marlene actually commented on them, saying how pretty they were, which in my mind, I'm automatically thinking about just how quickly this whole thing must have happened. Like, the second she opens the door, those flowers and balloons were probably just like shoved into her face. Like, oh, here, hold this. Because the next thing Marlene knew, she was shot in the face at point blank range. When Marlene first realized the clown was handing her flowers and balloons, she actually thought that it might have been from her husband, Mike. Maybe an apology or possibly a good faith gesture, as if to say, like, let's reconcile.
Because at this time, Marlene and Mike were having some marital problems. Nothing that seemed wildly out of control, at least not from the outside looking in. More like arguments here and there, but they also own several businesses together. And family and business are not always the best mix. Not
so true.
It can't work.
Yeah.
But sometimes it adds this extra layer of tension or resentment to a relationship. Marlene and Mike owned a car dealership and several rental properties together. And Mike also owned racehorses. So financially, they were doing very well for themselves. They lived in a very nice neighborhood in Wellington, Florida called the Aero Club. And it was called that because there was literally a runway running through the back of the neighborhood where people could land their private planes. So Marlene and Mike had been married for 20 years. And by all accounts, Mike had been a great stepdad.
Marlene had been married once before, which took place when she was really young, to a man named John Aarons. The reason that they got married so young was because Marlene's dad was in the Air Force. And when he got restationed in Europe, that meant that she would have to move to Europe too. So it was then that she decided to marry him, which I'm over here like, I would live in Europe.
You would.
I would, at least for a little while, like temporarily, but
I'm over here like, no, I'm good.
Taylor's like, no thanks.
Yeah, America it is.
Okay. Well, so the marriage ultimately did not work out, but they had 2 sons together, Johnny and Joe. Johnny had tragically passed away 2 years prior to the seemingly random clown knocking on the door. He had been in a fatal car accident, so at the time of her murder, Joe was her only living child. Joe, who was 22 years old at the time, said that he remembered his mom opening the door that morning after a white Chrysler LeBaron pulled up into the driveway around 11 a.m. He said his mom opened the door, took the flowers and balloons, and said, "Oh, how pretty." And then he heard what he thought was a balloon popping. But shortly after, he realized that the clown had pulled out a pistol and shot his mother directly in the face, which is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Joe had friends over that morning for breakfast, and after she fell to the floor, everyone raced to be by her side. Everyone who was there that morning said that the clown calmly walked away after shooting Marlene in the face. And Joe actually tried to chase after the clown to get them to stop. But in that car accident, he'd broken his legs, so he was in bulky leg cast, so he wasn't able to get around as quickly as he wanted to. But it was probably a good thing that he wasn't able to do that. He said that the clown turned around, looked at him briefly, and then slowly got in the car and slowly drove away. Obviously, this entire case and how it was carried out is already pretty creepy, right? But just imagine that, just walking slowly like Michael Myers, creepy. Most people who carry out crimes are panicking and fleeing the scene as quickly as possible. They definitely are not cool, calm, and collected enough to just slowly walk away from a crime that they just committed. So Joe and his friend hop in the car. They tried following the white car, but were unable to catch up with it. So the clown and the car disappeared in plain sight.
It's crazy.
Even though he wasn't able to track down the vehicle, Joe was able to give the police a description of what the clown looked like. He said it had an orange wig, all white and red makeup, a big red clown nose, and brown eyes. He didn't know if it was a man or a woman. The only thing he could say about their natural appearance is that he or she had brown eyes, and said that he knew this because they looked him directly in the eyes. And he also said that they had regular high-top shoes, not clown shoes.
So Marlene was still alive, and she was immediately rushed to the hospital, where it was discovered that she had a bullet lodged in her spinal cord. Unfortunately, there wasn't much that they could do to save her, and she was put onto life support shortly after she arrived at the hospital. Tips started coming in to the detectives only 3 hours after she was shot. One of them said that they needed to look into Marlene's husband and a woman who worked for him, Sheila Keene. Sheila worked at their car dealership, Bargain Motors. She was a 26-year-old with a son from a previous marriage. She did car repossessions for the business, and everyone said that she was the perfect person for the position because she was aggressive, fearless, and when worse came to worse, she was known to carry a .38 caliber pistol for protection. It was a gun that she and her former husband owned together. There were a lot of rumors about Sheila having a don't mess with me attitude, which is not a bad thing necessarily, but there were also rumors that she and Mike were having an affair. Some employees even said that they had been caught having sex in the office on multiple occasions. You may be thinking, just like, divorce your wife. But come to find out, most of the businesses that Marlene and Mike owned were in Marlene's name, which obviously would be troublesome for Mike in the event that he divorced her, because Florida is a common law state, meaning during divorce, the Florida court tries to divide property fairly, but not necessarily equally between spouses. It's not one of those states where
it's joint property.
It's both of ours, even though your name's on it.
Yeah.
So when detectives finally were able to track down Mike, he was miles away in a car with some friends heading to the racetrack. So there was no way that he could have dressed up as a clown, cleaned up, and then got to the racetrack. It would have been physically impossible for him to do all that. Not to mention that there were multiple other people in the car with him who were able to back up the timeline. Some people say that this worked out a little too perfectly, but it was never proven that he had anything to do with it. So detectives start looking into the tips on Sheila. They went to flower shops and grocery stores around the area to try and track down where the balloons and flowers had come from. And they also called around to costume shops to see if they could get any insight on people who had purchased clown costumes. They ended up calling Barbara Costercone and Deborah Offord, who worked at a local costume shop. So these two ladies had some very interesting information for detectives. They went on to tell them that 2 nights earlier, a woman had come in just as they were closing, and she was very adamant about seeing their selection of clown costumes, which really on any day is kind of weird.
Right.
But especially when it has to do with this case.
Yeah.
So the woman said she can come back tomorrow because we're closing right now. And the woman told them no, that she needed it right then and there, and ended up buying a clown costume, an orange wig, a red nose, and white makeup. So that obviously fits the description of the killer, right?
Absolutely.
And it's pretty distinctive. So detectives asked both women to describe the lady who purchased these items, and both of them described someone who looked very similar to Sheila Keene. And when they looked at a photo lineup, they both picked Sheila out and said that they couldn't be 100% sure, but they were pretty dang sure it was her. So tracking down the balloons ended up being a lot easier. Which I would have thought that would have been like the hardest part,
A
right?
little bit harder, yeah, for sure.
But apparently it was a lot easier because both balloons were very distinct balloons. One of them said, "You're the greatest." And the other
I'm
one...
sorry, that right there is just a little creepy to me, too. Like, you're the greatest. I don't know.
Boom.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
And then, so the other one had Snow White and the 7 dwarfs on it.
Also very creepy.
Like, weird. Like, why pick that one?
Yeah. Strange.
Yeah. I don't know. The detectives were able to determine that the balloons were purchased at the grocery store called Publix. The employees there gave them a similar description of the woman who purchased the balloons, and when they looked at the time the balloons were purchased, it showed 9:22 a.m., which was about an hour and a half before Marlene was shot point blank in the face. Sheila only lived half a mile from the Publix grocery store where the balloons were brought. Where the balloons were bought. Detectives obviously didn't think that this was just a coincidence at this point. So they went to talk to Sheila. And at this point in time, Marlene was being taken off life support just 2 days after the shooting occurred. Marlene's mother, Shirley, received a call telling her what was going on while she and Marlene's stepfather were vacationing and visiting friends in Arizona. So they flew back to Vegas, where they lived, and then quickly got another flight to Florida to be by Marlene's side.
That's sad.
Marlene's son, Joe, was there, and then Mike, her husband, was also there. So the fact that Mike was there really, pissed off Shirley, which is Marlene's mom. She oh, God, Tucker.
I didn't kick.
He's not moving now. He likes to do like a one and done. Who later told CBS News that Marlene had recently confided in her that if anything happened to her, Mike had done it. If you guys ever say, if anything were to happen to me, come on now. Just get out of that relationship.
Yes, be done.
I feel like that's just a red flag.
100%. If you have to think that way, something's probably pretty seriously wrong.
There's resources out there, guys. Get help. Get out of the situation if able, safely. But I know it's much easier said than done. But now, saying that, I couldn't find anything that definitely showed that Marlene had ever expressed wanting to leave her marriage. But I also think it could have been overshadowed by the case. It was found that her mother had told her to come live with her and seemed like she may have been planning to do it. So Shirley knew that Mike had an outright alibi, but she seemed to believe that he was still involved.
I mean, it would definitely give you some doubts. I mean, just think about that being like your kid or your sister or your family member and knowing that, yeah, that would leave some doubt in your head.
Oh, I mean, the whole crown thing would give me the heebie-jeebies. Like,
well, yeah.
Like, who thinks of that?
Well, yeah, and that does show like a particular cruelty. Like, were you wanting to taunt them? Like, you know what I mean? It just feels a little extra cruel.
And a little personal.
Yeah, definitely personal. The bullet removed from her spinal cord was concluded to be from either a .38 caliber pistol or a .357, one of the two guns. And if you remember, Sheila and her ex-husband owned a .38 caliber pistol. So, as you can imagine, this fact only made detectives even more intrigued to dig into Sheila as a suspect. They went to her home to interview her, and she claimed to be out doing car repossessions at the time of the murder, but she couldn't remember any of the details of the cars that she'd repossessed that day.
I feel like you would have like a list or something.
You would definitely have a list.
Some addresses, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just repossess cars and not know anything about them.
Well, you would know at least what kind, like make and model that you're looking for to repossess at the very least, right?
Yeah.
She also told them that she had misplaced that gun about a month before the shooting. And I'm sorry, but who just misplaces a gun? Especially if you have a child, which she had. You don't do that. She also denied having a romantic relationship with Mike Warren and said that they only had a close friendship. When her neighbors were interviewed, though, they said that they saw Mike Warren coming and going so often that they thought he was her actual husband.
That's a fun fact.
Uh-huh.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and another interesting fact is when Marlene told her mother, Shirley, to look into Mike if anything ever happened to her, she also told her that Mike was hardly ever home anymore.
So there we go.
So now it all starts adding up. He started not being around as much when Marlene's oldest son died, which makes him seem even more of an asshole. The surviving son, Joe, said that he was their dad. They were with him starting at a very early age. So for him to disappear when not just Marlene needed him, but Joe as well. Plus, wouldn't you think that he himself would be grieving that loss as well and want to be around the family? It's just kind of interesting.
Which, I mean, hindsight 2020, like
everyone grieves differently
and copes in different ways.
Yeah.
But it is a little strange. Like, you would think you would want to be at least
there for your kid.
Around the kid.
Yeah, it's weird. At this point, the police have a good case built, but all of what they had was circumstantial until a car was found just 4 days after the shooting. This car matched the description of the white Chrysler LeBaron that the calm killer clown was seen driving away in. It was found at a Winn-Dixie grocery store, and whenever they checked into who it belonged to, it came back to be a stolen vehicle from a car rental place called Payless. And this is where an unexpected twist came to the case.
Not the shoe store.
Yeah, I know, right?
I don't even know if there's any Paylesses around anymore, though.
I have no idea.
We had one in the Abilene Mall, and I remember it was, like, pretty run down.
But Paylesses used to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Mike Warren had previously been sued by Payless for running an ad that looked exactly like theirs. His commercial was supposed to have pay less, like Payless is one word, as pay less, 2 words. But whenever the ad was run, you couldn't really see the space between the words. And Payless argued that people would call Mike instead of them, and he got sued for it. So basically, he would get their business, you know. So back to the car, the last person that it had been rented to was a couple who ended up calling Bargain Motors, Mike's dealership. When they were ready to return the vehicle, instead of calling Payless, where they actually rented the car from, the person at Bargain Motors who answered the phone told them to leave the car on the street and leave the keys in the visor. Can you guess who the person may have been?
I already know.
I mean, that's already like so weird anyways. As someone who's rented a car, you want me to leave it in the back alleyway or whatever and leave the keys in it? Probably not.
Okay.
Yeah. So the couple said that they thought this was weird, but at the same time, they were just like, okay. Yeah, like that's what they want us to do. That's what we'll do. When detectives searched the white LeBaron, they found strands of long, dark hair. And just FYI here, guys, when people were asked to describe Sheila, people often referred to her hair as long, thick, brown hippie hair, parted in the middle. They also found orange fibers, just like the one that came from the clown wig used as a disguise in the murder of Marlene. But as I'm sure you know, DNA testing was brand new in the early 90s, so it wasn't very advanced at the time. So when they compared Sheila's hair to the hair found in the white LeBaron, the results came back as similar. The clown costume used was never found, and neither was the gun that was used to shoot Marlene. But they got lucky and were able to get a search warrant for Sheila's apartment, which was only 9 miles away from the Winn-Dixie that the LeBaron was found at. So when they searched her apartment, they gathered more of Sheila's hair for testing, and they found orange fibers, which were consistent with the fibers found in both the LeBaron and on Sheila's clothing. But again, those are both circumstantial evidence, so they weren't willing to go with it. They wanted to wait until they had something stronger.
Yeah. If you go too early with circumstantial evidence,
you can blow up the whole case.
And it would just fall apart.
Yeah. So investigators start looking back into Mike again, because the car was connected to him via the phone call to Bargain Motors. They could now get a warrant for Mike. And when they searched his home and business, they were able to arrest him, but not for anything related to Marlene's case. Instead, they found enough evidence to arrest Mike on racketeering charges, grand theft auto, odometer tampering, and insurance fraud.
Matilda!
Yeah, it definitely makes you think of the dad of Matilda. Yeah, that was a good one.
Sister loves that movie.
Oh, it's a good movie. It's cute.
We've watched it a lot lately.
I like it. So he was immediately arrested and ended up serving 4 years in prison for these charges, but they were never able to connect him to Marlene's case. Now, there are a lot of gray areas in Mike's life between the years of Mike being released from prison, which was mid-90s, and 2002. But we do know some things, like Mike argued with Marlene's son, Joe, about who should keep the house. And Joe basically got left with absolutely nothing. So that paired with losing his mom, and at this point, the only dad that he'd ever known, Mike, sent him kind of spiraling. He got into drugs as a coping mechanism, but he was able to completely turn his life around, and he ended up starting his own construction company.
Good for him.
Indeed. In his interview with 48 Hours, he said he owes it to his mom because he learned so much from her.
Yeah.
She used to take him to the rental properties anytime something needed to be fixed. And he said that if she couldn't fix it herself, which apparently was rare because she was known to be able to fix pretty much anything. But,
impressive.
Right? But if she couldn't, she would call a handyman, and whoever came out, she would have Joe watch them as they fixed it so that he could learn how to do it. And he did. So in 2002, Sheila moved away with her son and then got married to Mike Warren in Vegas. So I guess they just maybe thought everybody else wasn't as smart.
Dumb.
They ended up settling in Abingdon, Virginia, and opening a fast food restaurant in Tennessee, which was just across the border, called the Purple Cow. What a weird name for a restaurant.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So Sheila was now going by Deb or Debbie, which, according to her, was what her dad called her growing up. She dyed her hair, what she called blonde, but it was more of like that brassy, orangey blonde, you know?
The blonde you don't go for.
Yeah, exactly. It almost looked like she just poured like peroxide on her head. But employees at the Purple Cow restaurant said that Sheila and Mike were not good employers to work for. They said that if anything was wrong whenever they came in, you would never hear the end of it. And that it was rumored that Sheila was responsible for killing Mike's former wife while dressed as a clown. And this little detail is going to get under your skin. On Halloween, they would dress up at the Purple Cow, and one year, Sheila dressed as a clown. Yeah.
That's just odd to me. Like, why would you pick a clown of all things?
Yeah, why would you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know DNA testing advanced significantly since the time Marlene was murdered. And in 2013, the detectives who were now working on Marlene's case were determined to get definitive answers. They, along with many others, knew that Sheila was responsible, but they just needed a stronger case. They started re-questioning all the witnesses to the shooting, anyone who worked with or for Mike and Sheila, and really started to get the case ramped up again.
Good.
They said that they knew it would take time, but that they were hopeful that it would end with Sheila in handcuffs. So in the meantime, Mike and Sheila retired. They sold the Purple Cow in December of 2016, thinking that they're going to live out this amazing, happy, retired life together. They're happily ever after in the beautiful second house on the lake in the mountains of Virginia. However, in 2017, their happily ever after came crumbling down on them. So on September 26th of 2017, the police set up a stop to look like a roadblock, essentially, because they knew that Mike and Sheila would be coming through this area. They did it because they thought if they went to the home to arrest her, that she wouldn't come willingly. So Officer Dewey Wilson. Dewey.
It's like the Scream movie.
I was going to say, what is that off of?
Scream.
Anyways, Officer Wilson pulled them over and asked for Mike's driver's license, and then went to the passenger side and asked to see Sheila's ID as well. When she handed him her license, he said, "Can you step out of the car, please?"
Ma'am, please step out of the car.
You were under arrest for the 1990 murder of Marlene Warren.
Wow.
So 27 years later, she was booked in Virginia. And in her mugshot, she's smiling ear to ear.
I just think something about that is just so
Wrong, creepy.
It's just almost disgusting.
I don't know.
I just don't like it.
Yeah, I don't either. But especially like if your charges are for killing, like murder or whatever it is.
Yes, any kind of serious charge.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, surely you're not happy that you're booked right now, or that you're possibly got caught. Like,
I would think you were not happy to be in jail.
You know, to each their own. But she was quickly extradited to Florida to stand trial for the murder of Marlene Warren. The prosecutor said that because there was new DNA testing, obviously they retested all the evidence from the case, and even though they wouldn't say what exactly they had, they did say what they had would be able to put Sheila behind bars permanently.
Ooh.
So, while Sheila was in prison awaiting trial, the prosecution was reading all of her mail to try and catch her slipping. However, nothing was ever found in her mail that tied her to the case. Her trial date got pushed back several times due to COVID, but finally, it was set for May of 2023. Her attorney said that Sheila was innocent and was ready for her day in court. But on April 25th of 2023, an unexpected plea deal was reached just weeks before her first-degree murder trial was set to begin. She withdrew her plea of not guilty to first-degree murder and changed her plea to guilty to the...
She just doesn't stop. She wants in.
That's like she knew every time I was talking. She's like, I'm already ADD. Come on now. She withdrew her plea of not guilty to first-degree murder and changed her plea to guilty to the lesser charge of second-degree murder as part of the deal with prosecutors. So in exchange for pleading guilty, Sheila was sentenced to 12 years in prison. 12 years for walking up to somebody point blank.
Killing them in front of their kids and other friends and leaving. Yeah, no.
Look, she received 2,039 days of credit for the time she already served in jail.
Which is like 5 years, right? Give or take.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, probably around 5. The about-face plea came as somewhat of a surprise to everyone, especially after the lead defense attorney, Greg Rosenfeld, said that she was innocent and ready for her day in court in June of 2022. To quote him, he said, "We have no question that Mrs. Keene Warren did not commit this crime." After this plea was entered, her lawyer, Rosenfeld, explained the change of plea. He said, quote, "When she was arrested, the state of Florida wanted to execute her. This was a death penalty case for 18 months. They wanted to murder our client, and now she's going home in 10 months.
Wow.
That's crazy to me.
That is crazy. So unjust.
To say this is a win would be an understatement for Miss Keene Warren. Like, really?
Yeah, wow.
Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg said that the state has, quote, obtained a measure of justice with the conviction and sentencing of Marlene's killer. He also said Sheila, quote, has finally been forced to admit that she was the one who dressed up as a clown and took the life of an innocent victim. She will be a convicted murderer for the rest of her days. The decision to negotiate a guilty plea was made after considering the age of the 33-year-old case, particularly the death of key witnesses. He then continues to say, for example, the death of the lead crime scene investigator broke the chain of custody for critical evidence that could no longer be authenticated. Ehrenberg also refuted Rosenfeld's claim that Sheila would be released in 10 months, saying she'll spend closer to 2 years in the Florida Department of Corrections.
But what is that?
10 months, 2 years. Come on now.
Oh, man, that's terrible. So Sheila maintained her innocence even after her plea of guilty, and she said she only took the plea deal because she would be released in less than 2 years and had been facing a life sentence if convicted at trial. And just a fun fact here, Sheila's defense lawyer was a super high-powered attorney, meaning that he probably cost quite a bit of money to hire. She claimed herself to be indigent, meaning basically that she's poor, and she filed a motion claiming that she needed the Justice Administration Commission to help her pay for all of these outstanding fees from her case. But everything that she and Mike have together adds up to hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of cash and assets. Palm Beach County Sheriff's investigators had long suspected her in the slaying and were able to arrest her and convict her 27 years later, so over 3 decades after the murder. So Mike Warren spoke to the same reporter that Marlene's mother, Shirley, spoke to about Marlene, saying, if anything ever happens to me, you should look at Mike. And he said, if I thought Sheila had anything to do with this, I wouldn't have been with her. She's never been charged with anything pertaining to Marlene's murder and still denies any involvement.
And this is where we're going to leave you.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Taylor. And remember, it's not just crime, it's
Pure Malice.
Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and follow button for us. It's one of the easiest ways to support the show. And make sure you don't miss what's coming next. And with that... And with that, we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Ah!